So today's webinar is on the power of positive thinking in today's environment for businesses, and I'm hoping you'll get a lot of takeaways. Feel free to send your questions in. I think Michaela and Rizwan is looking after the questions. We'll have a Q&A at the end. The first few hours or the first section will be just me talking. I can't see you, but obviously I'm hoping you can hear me well enough. So fire off your questions. It's always nice to get some good engagement. When we're face to face, it's obviously to do it in real time, but at the moment we'll have to do it at the end. So bear with us. This is my first webinar I'm delivering. Michaela's done a few, but this is my first one. So I'm hoping it's a seamless experience for you all. So I'm going to share my screen now. And we'll make a start. So I'm hoping everybody can see that. Why is it so important to think about positive thinking? Why is it so important to maintain not only health in business, be successful and all those sorts of things, but it's equally important to make sure you're operating to an optimal level yourself, because without you, there is no business. Even if you've got staff, if you're not operating in a way that's cohesive to the way the business is, if you're not preparing yourself in a way to recover from what we find ourselves in, then even if you've got staff, they're limited in terms of the direction and the leadership they will have from yourself or from a senior management team. So it goes hand in hand.
Latif,
yeah?
Latif, sorry. Were you sharing your screen?
Yeah.
It's not sharing.
It's not sharing. I pressed
and also we've got a little bit of sound coming from somewhere. I don't know, rustling.
It's not me.
Okay.
Let's try again. Yeah, so I pressed this before. Yeah, there you go. You should have that.
Now it's coming up. There's some popping sounds, so I'm not sure because we're all muted. Beard noise. John Myhill says it's beard noise. Have you got your headset on?
Yeah, I've got my headset on.
Probably rubbing on something.
Oh, right.
So that might be why. Maybe go to the laptop sound.
Shall I take the earphones out?
Try it. Let's just try. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, can you hear me now? No rustling sound?
Now you've got a different background noise, but it's, I think, better. We'll maybe go with this for now. Okay?
Tell you what I'll do.
Better.
I'll leave the headphones in and try not to move around so much. If it gets too much, then I'll pull the headphones out.
It's definitely beard noise. Thank you for that, John. That's
beard noise.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. See you in a minute.
So in terms of positive thinking, like I've explained, very, very important to get your mind healthy, your body healthy, and overall that'll be successful in your business. They say that we have an estimated 60 to 80,000 thoughts, throughout a particular day. And on average, it's between 2,500 to 3,300 thoughts per hour. So when we've got that many thoughts racing through our head, how do we keep focused? How do we ensure that those thoughts are productive? It's the thoughts that we need to maintain, success in business. Especially in these challenging times, we need to remain positive. We need to think positive, and we need to be optimistic and focused on the positive aspects of life. And you're probably wondering, why isn't he talking about maybe certain areas of specific business? All that is included in this in terms of what it starts up from in here, from the mindset. So if you take your brain and look at it as, say, Stuart will know, a hard drive, what you put in is what you're going to get out. So the more positive things that you feed yourself from morning, afternoon, night time, you're giving yourself optimum levels of performance to make sure that when challenges hit, even minor challenges, and in terms of decision making, in terms of wondering what to do next, it's all down to what you've put in beforehand. So when challenges hit, I spoke to somebody yesterday and they had a number of PDF documents that they thought they'd saved and they thought they'd lost them. But in that hour to 2 hours, they were getting really, really stressed. And it didn't help them in terms of the client calls in between and customer facing things. So it's very, very important that we make sure we try our best during, especially these times and each day going forward, to maintain that positive mental well-being, but also keep your thoughts positive. I've got a friend called Richard Wilkins. He's deemed himself the UK Minister for Inspiration. You can Google him, Richard Wilkins. I've been to several of his seminars and I'm regularly in contact with him. He talks about a sausage machine, and what he talks about in terms of the sausage machine is when you're making sausages, the end result of the sausages are based on the ingredients, and what you put in the first place dictates what is on the outcome on the outside. And each day he's saying, this might sound a little bit too much at this time of the morning, but he turns around and he does a lot of work around suicide prevention. He does a lot of work around depression. But his attitude to life is about choices. His attitude to life is about making sure that each morning when you get up, the first thing to celebrate is to ensure that you're thankful that you've got another chance to be, the better you that morning, because unfortunately some people haven't during these times. So although it might sound a little bit kind of depressing, that kind of thing, it is something to fall back on, because it can really, really help you set up for the day and also put things into perspective, take the pressure off you moving forward in your business and your life. Just a quick exercise. If you was to all cross your hands very quickly, just cross your hands, like you would do like this, then uncross them, and then cross them again, uncross them, and one more time, cross them again, and uncross them. Now try it the other way around. Okay, so how does that feel for you? I mean, if you can talk about it in the questions and answers, but for most people, I would have expected there was a slight delay. Not everybody's used to it, used to doing that. I'm more of a natural left over right person. I have practice, so it doesn't feel too bad when I'm doing right over left, but for most people, they get a little bit stuck. And in terms of the mind, in terms of the patterns of the brain, science has proven that your thoughts can shape your brain and the way it works in terms of research they carried out with stroke patients, things linked to mental illness. And what we have in the brain are called neurons that are firing all the time. And then you have the way these neurons work and the way they form patterns. If you do something in a certain way over a certain time period, you get used to it and the brain gets used to it. So what the message over here is that if you form new ways of working, new ways of thinking, there's different research out there, but somebody says that to form a positive habit, it can take anything up to 21 days. If you start off with just today, that could be the start of rewiring your brain in terms of what is going to be productive for you during this time. So that could be decisions making about cash flow, that could be decision making about planning your business. Now, I've spoken to a few people in the past in 2 weeks, and some of them were quite down when I've got on the Zoom call with them initially, but underlying there was a kind of inertia around what's the point, and it was my role to kind of prick them up from there and look at all the different ways of being resilient within the business. There was still a lot of things that business could have done and is doing now once we've spoken to them. So there is inspiration out there from a number of different ways, but one of the first ways is for your mind itself to be willing. And some people say we're only using like 10, 20% of the brain. And as we're kind of, if you watch that program Limitless, where the person, obviously in that program, he goes on to do super heroic type of acts using the fullness of the brain and fullness of the brain capacity. So what if you had the opportunity every day to tap into this amazing computer that we've all been given and practice little by little a way in which you can kind of, if you want to call it IT terms, rewire your own hard drive that's in your head. And it all depends on how much you've been kind of rewired previously, but it's not impossible. It can be done. And the important thing to remember is, for myself and other clients even I work with, is I've been able to do it. And the clients I've worked with and the people I've seen across Boost, when I was a Boost advisor, it's more about having that attitude to say, I'm going to give it a go. And when Michaela at the beginning spoke about, our working relationship before, there's always that thing at the beginning is to say, well, do you know what? I'm going to give this a go. I'm going to step back from the situation and have a look. Let me look. And sometimes you just need to take a break sometimes. If we're too close to it, then it clouds our judgment, it clouds our thoughts, and that's what we don't need, especially at this moment in time. If you've got staff at the moment, whether they're furloughed or whether you're trying to make that decision, whether you're going to put them on furlough, in a way, as a member of staff, they will be relying on you to make effective decisions to carry on maintaining the success of that business. There's a lot of uncertainty out there, there's a lot of chaos into it, and to grow your business, you will need staff who have been with you, know the business, are loyal to you. So yeah, okay, fair enough. If your business needs to make a decision about the furloughing, but at the same time, you need to be operating to a level where you can make those decisions on behalf of your business. That's productive, practical, that reflects back to the performance of the business. Now, that might not happen overnight during this time, but if you put the little actions in place, the little goals in place, then, as Michaela said, and as we're hearing all over, when it comes time to kind of reboot, as you were, and get back out there, that's the time that you'll see all the successes. So a lot of clients I've been working at the moment will be working on strategies for exactly that. I spoke to a company that works right across the world, and in a way, the person I spoke to thought, well, they came to a halt, and really there was a lot of things they could still be doing. So just bear that in mind. There's a little quote there. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we can make the world. I think sometimes we kind of underestimate how many thoughts can be impactful, how many thoughts can be detrimental to us, because we're usually racing at such a speed, we probably don't understand what unconscious thoughts have gone in there, what things we've just gone onto autopilot with. And if there is a silver lining from this whole thing, it's a chance for us all as business owners to take restock about how we've been operating over the last few years, how effective has that been, and what changes can we make. Really, really important. There's a number of businesses doing that right now, going back to basics. And I think in my situation with the people I've worked with, it's a fortunate time for those businesses, because it could have led to the businesses maybe growing too fast and then not being able to handle it. It could have effects regarding health and well-being for the business owner, trying to race through things that are not really planned out as well, working too many hours. So there's a lot of that, the effects on work-life balance. And we've got an excellent opportunity at this moment in time to kind of reset. And there's lots more workshops coming up through Boost. I highly encourage you, go on them. The time management will be excellent as well, because I've heard people say all the days roll into one, and I'm struggling to look at this and look at that. So it's structure, routine, which is really good for kids, because they get, they're kind of used to it more, even though they're homeschooling. But for ourselves, it's more and more important now, if we have got the kids at home, whether they're on holiday or whether they restart school in a week or two, to maintain that structure, because that structure is the discipline, and it is the cape of courage for you going forward. There's a pattern, and it's really, really kind of helpful to understand what the pattern will be for you. So nothing happens by chance, everything happens in sequence. So what tends to happen is there'll be a thought around something, and a thought could be how I'm going to call, what's going to happen next week. And particularly in times of uncertainty, ambiguity, it doesn't help. And it's better then to change focus and try to plan, even though you feel possibly what's the point, or is limited planning. But some planning is better than no planning. There's an old adage is, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So in terms of that first thought, or number of thoughts, what are your key thoughts that's not helping you at the moment, or that have been floating around in the background? Because those thoughts, for many business owners, have led to a certain feeling, and that feeling then leads to a certain type of behavior. So yesterday, like I said, I spoke to this client. They had this little issue with all these documents. They weren't in the best frame of mind. So this is something they're sort of paying for. And for the first 5-10 minutes, it was like I was just looking right through them. The mind wasn't there, it wasn't with it. Imagine the customers they may have spoken to before me. Imagine the information they may have put out on social media before they contacted me. It wouldn't have been the best, in my opinion. So again, each time, when you say you can feel an atmosphere, you can walk in a room, even though we might not be able to do that now, we're very, very good as human beings to pick up things, even at Zoom, when we're looking at people, looking at the facial expressions. And sometimes you can just get from that first few milliseconds that something's just not right here. So again, there's lots of different things we can do to help us prepare, which I'll go into in a minute, that it's about a state of mind, but it's also about what they call in neuro-linguistic programming, a state change. So very important to kind of track your thoughts, what's not working for you, what's been unproductive, where they come from, are they lingering thoughts, and what is the likelihood for that particular thing to come to fruition? Because 90% of the things we worry about never really happen. And again, that's all backed up with research. So why should we be spending so much time? And a lot of time that goes back to the patterns again, because normally it's a protection mechanism from our days when we were cavemen and women. It's there to help us, but we need to override it to understand that if I do get a thought. So for example, this morning I was liaising with Michaela in particular, and there was it's less than a millisecond. I can't quantify it. I've not really done much quantum physics, but there was a split second where I thought, do you know what? If this link doesn't come through, it's my first webinar, and what am I gonna do? Because Stuart, as you know, I'm using Gmail for all my business accounts. The emails that Michaela sent didn't come through, so I was thinking this isn't going to look good. And if I didn't check that thought at that time, it could have spiraled out into thinking, oh my God, my first one, it's going to be a disaster, the link's not come through, and off you go. And you could probably relate to that. And it's at what point do we catch it, and what point do we do something about it? So very quickly, I started looking at it from a point of, I know it's going to be fine. I've just given, me and Michaela discussed a number of other options. And one of the final options was, which I took, and I had the link and I logged on. So it's really interesting. So very important. Remember your thoughts, even the happy ones, the good ones, we want more of that as though we're consuming food, your thoughts. So good thoughts create good feelings, which create good behaviours, and that would relate to how you are. Because if we're working from home at the moment, the last thing you want to be doing is, if you're working on your own from a certain room, you've got a small office, if there are these thoughts going around, you don't want to take that kind of negative energy into other places within the home. You want to be kind of doing it in a way where you're uplifted and you can have that interaction with your family, knowing that you can balance the stuff from working at home with your business and also sharing your time and enjoying the time working from home with your family. So that's a lot on that. So I touched a little on breaking state and how do we break state. One of the things, just going back to your thoughts, feelings and behaviours when I tracked, it's just a simple thing before I move back to this, is keep a little journal. You can keep a little diary, a little journal, and you can really track your thoughts at what time of the day you get them, how long they last, is it one thought in particular, and how does it make you feel? And again, even the happy thoughts, you can track that. And if you do a little log, it doesn't have to be really, really detailed, but if you do a little log, you're able to track your mental performance over 2 to 3 days and then start to change it with things like this, breaking the state. So in terms of breaking the state, if I was sat here right now and I'm getting lots of thoughts that the screen starts to freeze and I need to be able to adjust my body posture straight away, get some fresh oxygen into my lungs. I need to either sit up or stand up a little bit more. By doing all that, it opens up the diaphragm. By opening up the diaphragm, I have a natural allowance of fresh air being able to pump through my to my lungs very, very quickly. And by adjusting the body posture, it has, when we talked about thoughts, feelings and behavior, I'm breaking that cycle. I'm also adjusting the body posture in order to make me feel in a more heightened awareness frame of mind. So sometimes if you're slouching, that doesn't help. If you're standing and you're kind of leaning forward, so when I do this sort of work face to face, imagine you're stood upright, very confident posture. Imagine there's a line holding you up, like a pole holding you up. You're very upright. And these things you can practice anytime. Obviously, when you're with a client, you might not be able to stand up and move around, but sometimes you can, with permission, just say, do you know what, can I just take 2 minutes? And they'll be fine with you. You can leave the room, go and adjust your body posture, adjust your mindset, get some fresh air into your breathing. And this is something you can try now, if you like, is by interrupting that cycle with the breath, it sends a neurological message to the brain. So if we look at taking some deep breaths, so if you were to sit up in your chair at the moment, feet on the floor, you can rest your hands on your desk, you can rest your hands on your lap. And then just breathe in from your nose, all the way in. And make sure you breathe in from the diaphragm and not your chest. And hold it in for 2 to 3 seconds. And then breathe out slowly for the count of 6 seconds. If we do that again, in, hold, and then out. One more time, in through your nose, hold, and then just slowly. We use this phraseology at times, take a breath, I need to take a breath. Well, we say it, but how many times do we actually do it? And we've only done that for less than a minute. If you were to practice that over a cycle of about 7 times without any distraction, it would automatically start to make you feel a lot calmer. Scientifically, it's proven, especially for those people that study or have come across mindfulness techniques, relaxation techniques, it definitely works. It doesn't take long. So sometimes when I need to rebalance, what I'll do, because I'm on back-to-back Zoom sessions, I will always leave enough time in between each session to obviously continue rehydrating myself, take a little comfort break, but do some of this as well. If I've been sat down, I'll make sure I'll do some exercises in terms of standing up, some stretches, and some very, very basic yoga movements. But the breathing is key. I really find it kind of fuels me up. So that's something you can continue practicing. Don't feel it's something where you think, like, just breathing exercises. I would say try them consistently 2 to 3 times a day for at least a week and see how you get on. And when you're doing that, you could play some music in the background, focus on something that's positive. You could close your eyes when you're doing it, so it's less distraction. And when you're doing that, your senses get heightened. So you can start hearing things that normally were there anyway, but you're picking up on that even more, which then altogether brings you into the current state, into the here and now. And by doing that, it's very, very difficult for any thoughts to come in. So the Buddhists talk about having a free and empty mind, which takes years and years to develop. But it's a huge way to break your state if you have got those little niggling thoughts. So just that little pause there. How many times do we allow ourselves to take a little break like that? There's a few seconds, and the more we give ourselves an opportunity to take that, because we haven't got phones ringing like we had before, we haven't got a team working around us per se, just that 30, 40 seconds of pure silence, if you can help you a lot going forward. Self-check. Here's something you can do right now. So if you've got a pen, paper, this is for now, and also when we talked about keeping that journal, check your own kind of temperature in terms of where your thoughts are at. So, okay, first question, how do you feel right now? How do you feel right now? And remember, that's just not in terms of the mental, that's also physical. So are you tired? Have you started to notice that one of your shoulders or your back or your calf muscles slightly tight or sore? The body is very, very intuitive. And the question you can then ask, particularly if you've got thoughts that are unhelpful, if you're ever feeling under par, is what has led me to feel this way? So the first question was, how do I feel right now? What has led me to feel this way? But that can easily work if you're feeling absolutely fantastic. You know, where did that come from? What were you doing to make you feel fantastic? How can I create more of that? If you find yourself during the week where you feel, I need to get out of this state of mind, ask yourself, how do I want to feel? Not so much about how I don't want to feel. So it's, if I all told you to think about, whatever you do, don't think about a pink elephant. Whatever you do, do not think about a pink elephant. So naturally what will happen is you start thinking in your mind. So the more times you think about something you don't want, that's what you focus on. So think about what you do want. How do I want to feel right now? How do I want to feel tomorrow? In terms of me preparing for my business tomorrow morning, I've got meetings, I've got staff meetings, I've got client meetings, I've got some work to do on this. How do I want to approach tomorrow so I can start to plan today? And then what would that do for you? What would that do for you? How do I feel right now? What has led me to feel this way? How do I want to feel? And what would that do for you? Now you can write those down, I would say, maybe even on a post-it note or something, leave them on the side somewhere where you can constantly reflect on those. And it works two ways. It can work in an unproductive state, but it can also work on a heightened productive state as well. Because if you can get used to this time now, especially being indoors a lot more or less all the time, and practice, and we talked about the neurons, we talked about how your brain kind of fires with patterns. It's an excellent way to start practicing a new and better you. A very powerful question in terms of uncertainty, the not knowing, or certain times you might have a thought about things that are not kind of positive, slightly negative. Is always ask yourself the question, you know, this is one of my mantras what I learned from the person I studied my NLP with, because he used to say so often in terms of audience participation within all the different sessions we had with the participants. But for example, if you're putting even a tender in for a business now to get in for the future, and if you said, well, I'm not too sure because somebody else has put one in, I know somebody else is going to go for it, I don't think we might get it. How do you know? You know, something's not going to work. How do you know? You know, I'm not really good at something. How do you know? You know, there's a lot of things around this ingestion of information about what you say to yourself does have a huge impact. So, for example, if you feel you're not very good at something, right, you can reframe or rephrase that and say, I'm learning to be better at webinars. I'm learning to be better at online networking. Rather than say, I spoke to somebody yesterday and they said, well, it terrifies me. You know, networking itself, I wasn't really comfortable with the teeth, but online networking, oh my God, this could go wrong and this could go wrong. And I just asked them the question, how do you know? And they sort of thought, and it stumbled really, because they thought, well, actually, there's no evidence for it, because they've not actually signed up for any online sessions. They were thinking too much about what could go wrong, so they were signed up. So we worked out a plan of testing, we worked out a plan of which ones they could go to and what they would do. So I'm hoping to hear some good news next week regarding those. So how do you know is very much, and you could say that to other people, if you're managing people, if you've got teams and colleagues, again, they may be going through some challenging circumstances at the moment as well. So it's always nice so it's a coaching question essentially. It's open-ended questions. You can ask your own team members, You can ask other people, or even customers. How do you know? It's very, very powerful. Because it keeps the conversation going, because it's an open-ended question anyway, but it gets the person to think from a point of positivity, because they have to produce the evidence then. They'll have to turn around and go, right, every single Zoom session I went on this week, you know, I just timed out every single time. And you sort of know that that's just not going to be possible. Highly unlikely. So there's a lot in just what, 1, 2, 3, 4 words. Huge thing. I've had so much success asking that question for potential clients, generating more leads, acquiring new clients, and also working with existing clients to create some amazing kind of outcomes. So yeah, try it out. And a lot of this, I would say, if you're writing it down, try it out. You can try it out at home with family members, but essentially in the business environment, try it out there. It really does work, because I've kind of passed this around through other business owners and they've been using it, and I've had a lot of good feedback. So one of the things in terms of positive self-talk, I touched on a little bit before, of what you put in is what you get out. Success comes in cans, not cannots. If you're into rugby, you've seen rugby, you've heard about the New Zealand rugby team, they do a very, very powerful ritual at the beginning of the match. It's called the haka. But if you look at the way their body, the way they're aligned as a team, if you look at the way the body posture is, which is something we talked about a little bit before in terms of breaking state, and then the words that they deliver, how do they deliver those words? There's so much conviction, so much passion, so much belief in what they're going to do. So the words are very, very congruent with the body actions. So how many times do we get an opportunity to make sure we believe in ourselves to a point that what we say to others, what we say about ourselves, is matched by the body language? If I ask you the question, what are your power words? What would you say they are? If you were to write your power words down about yourself, what would they be? Replace I'm not with I am. Anything that follows I am is really, really powerful. And it's a chance to practice on a daily basis. So it could be, I am feeling motivated. I am confident. I am calm. And you might think, well, they're just words. But scientifically, there's been lots of research done in America and Europe in terms of what you say out loud has an impact on your brain in terms of creating a belief. So if you've always been told you're a little bit clumsy, you start to act upon it, especially from a young age. If you're banging into things and all those sorts of things, you start to fulfill that prophecy that actually I think I am clumsy because of, and if you really strip down the evidence for that, it's probably only a few times, but you've probably been told and reminded more times of the glass you've knocked over, or you've knocked a vase over in your childhood or in your adolescence. It's only happened a few times, but you've been reminded of it as though it's happened every day and every hour. So equally, if we want to adopt something for ourselves, a very, very powerful, confident, assertive image, we can still start today. If you don't fully believe it, you can start looking at evidences. You can get what we call 360-degree feedback from people like your colleagues, trusted people that you can ask different versions of, what do you think I do as a leader? How do you think I do as a manager of the team? And sometimes it is about being big enough to say, I'm requesting some feedback about what would you want to change about me if I'm your boss? What kind of things? I'm trying to be a better leader. I've been looking, I've been searching, I've been looking at this time to analyze where the company grows and all the rest of it. And if you're prepared to take that constructively, so it needs to be delivered in a very constructive way, but it will help not only you, it'll help the relationship between you and your staff, even if they are freelancers that you outsource to, and vice versa. And also as a business leader going forward. A lot of the stories I've heard about people like Richard Branson, several entrepreneurs like that, they've had the opportunity to look at themselves and then have other people give them feedback. So Sir Alan Sugar talks about people like Sir Philip Green. He talks about Richard Branson. He talks about various different people that have been able to help him along the journey, even though from a very, very young age, Sir Alan Sugar was really, really successful. He still benefited from the kind of feedback from other people, which then kind of leads into what you've probably got already through Boost, is having a really, really good advisor, mentor. So whoever your Boost advisor is, mentor, make sure you keep in contact with them. Look at forming relationships when you're coming into webinars like this. Connect with people and look to form your own network or grow to your existing network with people that are going to help you think more positively, feel better about yourself in terms of what you're doing. Because there is that peer-to-peer support in terms of business owners. Because sometimes we might feel it's just my business, it's just me going through all this, even though we know, we watch the news and everything like that, very quickly to self-isolate or thinking in a kind of downward spiral. So speaking to a few business owners and connecting with them, and they may help you in terms of saying, well, look, this is what we've done, these are the challenges we've faced, and this is how we've overcome them. And you might be in completely different sectors, and sometimes that's the best ones. When they're not in your sector, they come out with the best ideas, because they can see things from a mile away that could be staring you in the face. So here's a little exercise that we're going to look at in terms of creating what we call a powerful breakfast affirmation. So as you get up, some people might have warm water with lemon in, some people might do a detox. So they're fantastic things for the body, but for the mind, what are we doing? When we wake up in the morning, what are we telling ourselves? Are we giving ourselves a list of things we need to do? I've got to get that done, I've got to get this done. Michaela's on at 11, needs to speak to her, then I need to do this, and I need to do that. How do you start your day, right? How would you want to start your day, is the question. So two things there is, how do you currently start your day? And how would you like to start your day? And what small changes? So if you like to get up and do some exercise in the morning, at the moment you might feel that's one of the challenges. Don't put yourself in for a 5K tomorrow morning. Do something lighter than that first, build up to it, so you can start getting into a bit where each morning when you get up, you may hydrate yourself and then go for some exercise, go for a jog or something like that, or do some exercise at home if that's what it is. Because you should have the day before already put into place several plans and tasks regarding your business. And when you wake up in the morning, unless there's some emergency, I would particularly say, don't look at your phone first thing. Look at you. How do you feel? How excited are you for the rest of the day? If you want to take your lemon water, do all that, and then start looking at this. How do you feel? How do you want to feel? And then using those power words we spoke about, I want you to create one powerful statement, or what they call an affirmation. So it could be, each day I am getting better and better in every way. I am feeling focused, motivated, and energized to ensure I'm having a productive day. I will have a productive day. You don't need to make them too long. You need to have loads, but maybe one that could be your hacker, your mantra for the morning. And remember, just as the New Zealand rugby team put that much passion in, are you willing to put that in? And it might feel a little bit strange to begin with, but definitely start practicing it. Maybe practice it in a room, make sure people are bought into it, so somebody doesn't think, what are you doing at 6 o'clock in the morning shouting that? So people are aware, go somewhere to another room and really get into it. Because studies have shown that writing affirmations from a perspective of your core values are far more effective. What you're essentially doing there is, with your brain, you're teaching it a new way to think about yourself and the world. It's kind of referred to as what they call brain plasticity or neuroplasticity. So all these things I've tried myself, and they work for me. Unfortunately, I used to have issues with all of this, especially as a teenager. What will people think? How do people judge you, especially in business? You're competing, but at the same time, there's always this other thing around the perception of your business, your brand identity, and how things are going to come across. So write that one powerful affirmation in the present tense. So I am, as though it is happening right now. That is you right now. And if I can get a bit of commitment from you guys, is once you've written it, it'd be great if you can practice it every day in the morning or in the afternoon, keep going through with it, and then give us some feedback of how it's changed, what has changed for you and how it's changed for you. If you look at professional boxers, professional sportsmen and women, they use not only visualization, but they also use these sorts of statements in terms of affirmations to not only see the goal, but to tell themselves on the inner voice and the outer voice to sort of get into that zone. Hope it's all going all right so far for you. So that's just an example in every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. And if it's too ambiguous, if it doesn't really fit in line with the values or what is kind of on a more realistic level, it probably won't work. So everything is great and my life is a dream. So it could be replaced with, I know that I'm capable to overcome anything and I can see a solution in this case. I know that I'm capable to overcome anything and I can see a solution in this case. You know, if you've got a little toolbox, you may arrive at a job or there's a job needs doing, you might not use every single tools in that toolbox or that toolkit. All these things we're sharing now and things that you already know, use them as a way that, depending on how you're thinking, you're feeling, what you need to do next, pull out the right equipment in order to move you forward for that particular moment in time, for that afternoon, for that morning, for that week, for that meeting. So this links back to one of the slides I talked about anyway, but by doing all this, using something like a positive thought generator, once we've changed the thoughts, and it's a continual process to get better and better at it, we change the feeling. And with those new beliefs, it leads to new actions, new environments, new conditions. So when I've tried all this before, even being skeptical at a younger age, but when I started getting into it, I started to notice people were addressing me differently. People were in my environment were different around me. And what had changed is not them. I changed in a positive way. And automatically, just as this is by magic, I suppose, you start getting really, really good results, new results. The opportunities were always there in the past. It's just that I wasn't able to see them because I wasn't ready to make those changes or even aware to make those changes. And don't beat yourself up if you try a few things and they don't work as well. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Learn to walk before you can run. And it's about the resilient side of things that you try these things. And remember, it's about you. It's not about me. It's not about Michaela. It's not about the rest of the people on here. If we're sharing information with each other, it's about empowering each other. It's not a competition to say, well, Michaela had some amazing results, you know. That's great for Michaela. So for those people, I think Helen's on here, Helen Kimber, in terms of people that do yoga, have seen yoga, understand a little about yoga, when you're on your mat, your competition, if you want to even call it that word, or your aim for that time you spend on a mat is just you and your mat. It's not about me looking over and thinking, oh, well, Stuart's really flexible over there. He can do the crab, or he can do this, and he can do that. It's about what I've put in. What do I get from my time doing that yoga lesson on that particular day? What does it mean to me? What are my realizations? How has this benefited me? So just remember that in whatever you do, even in business, though, because there may be things that you might see on online networking. You might see people on LinkedIn and various other platforms saying, great, we just picked up a new client even during this time, and which is great. You can comment on, but remember, what are you doing yourself? Don't let that take the shine of what you're going to do, because we don't know if that client relationship was built up over the last 3 to 6 months, but it's only been agreed now. It's a fickle place sometimes, the world of social media, especially on Instagram. Things are not always what they appear. So it's great to celebrate with others, especially on their successes. But after that, what I would do is I would see how that inspires me. So if I send a post by, say, Stuart from Genesis IT saying, we've just landed a new contract, I feel good for him. And if I wanted to pick his brains, I'd say, Stuart, just want to pick your brains about what led to getting that deal. Is there things I can learn, or the lessons I can learn in the way you approach getting that contract? Even though he's in IT and I'm in another industry, there may be certain things I can learn from. There's this kind of dichotomy at the moment where people are saying, oh, it's a fine balance between trying to be helpful and not selling. I've never advocated selling, and our sales guru, Stephen Leishman from Boost, he doesn't advocate. It's just a word, semantics, that it's a sales webinar or a sales workshop. But none of us advocate selling. What we advocate is building those relationships effectively enough for people to want to buy from you, because you've made it really easy for them, A, to understand what you do, B, understand the benefits, so the solutions you can provide to solve the problem, and then C, there's a really nice process in terms of you. So they know you, they like you, they trust you, and they want to work with you. They might even pay you more because of you. And a lot of that is very, very important in terms of you and your own moods, you and your own positive thinking of how you come across to people. Because when the chips are down, what we don't want to do is come across a little bit desperate to kind of, yes, we can ask for work, but there needs to be those several points beforehand in order to establish that relationship. If your business can't afford to give away a free service, it's fine. There's lots of businesses out there that are offering different flexible terms. They're not giving it for free. I don't advocate giving stuff for free. So as business owners, again, you could still hold your own using things like we've just discussed, having that positive mindset. For me to say to person X or person Y, this is how we can help your business in this time, and this is your investment, because at the end of the day, the investment is in the value of what you can do for that business. And that's a mindset thing. If I'm not believing in myself, I think, oh, if I say this to Michaela, she's going to think I'm dead cheeky. How can I be charging her at this moment in time? But we've all got bills to pay, and whether we get grants or not, we need to keep our businesses sustainable. There's no point me just saying to Michaela, right, can I have everything for free for the next 4 months? Because it devalues my service. What would Michaela think? How would she recommend me in future to somebody else? And thought, oh yeah, well, over summer or earlier on, you let me have so many sessions or so many programs for free. And somebody might go away thinking, well, I wonder how good they were then if you just gave them away free. So it does come down to your inner thoughts and beliefs about you as a person being able to be assertive, be confident, hold your ground. Yes, powerful negotiation, but it does come back down to very much around your positivity thinking. Just move on. Focus on the good, no matter how small. If you can read that, it says, okay. So this is something that's been popping up. I covered it in my newsletter recently. I've got a monthly newsletter. If you want to subscribe for it, send me an email. But yeah, it's also about us not missing all the great things that are around us. So if you made a list, right, you don't have to do it right now, but if you made a list and thought 20 things your life has been better for by working from home. Just 20 things. If you really think hard enough, I think you'll get past 20 in the first 5-6 minutes, easy. There's so many benefits. It's very, very unfortunate circumstances, but there's huge amount of, I mean, I've heard reports where certain countries and certain cities, people can start to see the blue skies because the pollution just isn't nowhere near what it used to be before, in terms of people spending lots of time in commutes, their problems with their back and the sciatica and all those sorts of things have reduced significantly. So there's a huge impact on family in terms of you being around a lot more. But then that comes back down to good structure and timekeeping, which you can look at the workshop for that. But yeah, that bonding with the kids, that bonding with your spouse, that bonding with your husband and wife. And if you're on your own, that's still maintaining that connection with people. Maybe not a physical connection, but it still gives you time to think, what is actually really, really important? Because believe me, yes, business is very, very important, but there's things far more important than that, in terms of your own health. If you're able to operate your business, or even if you're at a stage where it's still an idea at the moment, we're in a very, very privileged position to be able to do that, allocate different bits of time, when the weather's been fantastic, rather than, one of these unfortunate souls who had the virus, can't work, maybe end up in hospital, or worse than that. And once you put life into perspective like that, me not getting paid, or somebody else losing a contract to another competitor, or work slowing down, or putting people on furlough, in the scheme of things, you have got the transferable skills to deal with that. So whether you deal with it directly, whether you outsource certain legal requirements, whether you're using an outsourced HR team to look at your business, whether you're outsourcing your work to an IT team, because IT business is really, really busy at the beginning of this, helping people remote working, getting people set up securely, providing equipment like laptops and all the rest of it. So there's always going to be, when we talk about these sorts of times, people have talked in the past about recession, there's always going to be a time where one industry flourishes more than others and others go quiet. But just because it's quiet, it doesn't mean it's dead. You could still be planning and doing lots and lots of things. I seen a post the other day that somebody has taken a temporary post in a supermarket and they put it on social media. To them, because we all know where we're at, they had so many supportive messages because people believe in the person and people believe in that business. Unfortunately, there's no sales. So what they're going to do? So they've had to do that, and they put it up really, really proud, and then loads of people got behind them. So if somebody needs to do that, take a second income, if things are down and all those sorts of things, it's not something to be ashamed of. It's something we do in order to support our overall business goals, our own passion, because we can sooner or later, whether there's an extension for 3 weeks or a bit longer, we will get back. We're a very, very resilient nation. And as human beings, if you look at evolution and how we've gone from, we've outlasted the dinosaurs. And think about last 5 years, what new skills have you learned that previously you have no experience of? And then go back 5 years before then. Look at your own business, look at the areas of marketing, finance, sales, business development, in terms of growth, people management, moving from offices to offices as you grow, understanding and securing, contracts, but looking at the cash flow, whether to take somebody else. All them things haven't just happened like that. There's a lot of skills within you and inside you that are very, very transferable. So maintain all them skill sets, and you can apply them to certain things in your kind of personal life in terms of structure and moving things. I'm not telling you to go on to what's it called, a project management system, just to work out what you're going to do with the wife and kids or whatever, but a little bit of planning and preparation does help a lot to make sure you get the most out of it and they get the most out of it. And if you are on your own, what's your connection in terms of your network? So it might purely be online, But then using Zoom, you can have up to more than one person and up to a limited time. So sometimes you can be the creator to set up things. So I know there's loads of quizzes and all this lot of stuff. So there's a WhatsApp group which I'm part of, and they're all playing pool, it seems like, quite a lot. That's what drives them. So it's finding different ways. Then there's all humour, which I'm going to come on to in a minute. There's different ways to connect with different audiences, even if that means new audiences, to give you that connection with people. Still might be online, but once you've developed those relationships, those people that you can maybe see face to face later on. So it will and can lead to other things, either good relationships, as in friendships, but also good leads and lead generation. For me, I always like to have a laugh. If you know me, I always like to kind of say things in a certain way, never take life too seriously. It's helped me for years. To be honest with you, I've been like that as a kid. I don't think my dad was too impressed because he thought, you don't take anything seriously, which I learned the hard way because I didn't apply his methods and it used to frustrate him. But, I did it my way, as Frank Sinatra said. Very, very powerful. I always think the things I've been doing and have continued to do, but, what is it that makes you laugh? Because when you laugh, they say laughter is the best medicine. So one question for you all to write down: who or what makes you laugh? You can take the heat out of a situation through laughter. You can look at your business problems in a different light through all the stuff we've talked about so far, but also looking at it through having a bit of laugh with it. I mean that in a positive sense, but light-heartedly is probably the best choice of words. Because it kind of reduces the blow, it reduces the impact, allowing you to kind of manage that environment, manage that problem in a way where you take the sting out of it and then you can start planning. So a couple of things in terms of what laughter can do for you: it decreases the stress hormones, it can boost the immune cells, increase the infection fighting antibodies just by laughing, believe it or not. And it improves your resistance to disease. I've not made all this up. It's all online in terms of different studies that have looked at laughter and its impact to health and well-being, mindset, mood, everything else. Humour lightens our outlook on challenges, especially during this time. It inspires hope. It connects you with others. So, like if you've ever been to watch somebody doing stand-up, if you've seen stand-up on TV, especially if you're in the audience, you get this kind of amalgamated rush of noise, energy, obviously the professional comedians, but it's collective how everybody laughs together. You don't really get it unless the comic's not very good. You don't get them in batches. There was a video I saw on YouTube. It was ages ago, but it was this thing where one person on the tube, probably on the subway in America, everybody ended up laughing in that carriage, over the next few minutes. People just can't help themselves. I think it's something that makes us feel happy, makes us feel cheery. And yes, business is a serious thing, but at the same time, we can approach it with a little bit of lightheartedness, especially during these times. And it is, like I've just said, there's a lot of positive benefits. Even smiling can impact your mood. So it inspires hope, it connects you with others, and keeps you grounded and focused. I mean, some of the people that really inspire me are obviously in business as well, but especially when I do the online networking, there's always a joker doing some sort of pun, some sort of little joke that they come out with, and they've got a bit of reputation, and we're just waiting for them to come out with these little one-liners. And even though sometimes you're like, it just gets you to laugh for those few seconds. And everybody else, when you see them online networking, everybody got a smiley face or a happy face, and you actually feed into that. Laughter relaxes the whole body. What I tend to do myself is I tend to look at YouTube or things on Player and catch up, various comics where even though I've watched them again and again and again, I even know when the punchline's going to be. It doesn't really matter, because I just find the whole thing about that comic, the way they move, the way they structure the joke, the body, everything, voice tone, the story, it just gets me into laughter. I'm a complete different person. I'm kind of engrossed into it. You know, if anybody has come across hypnotherapy or the aspects of trance, where it's, you know, you're focused into something so much, you're engrossed into it. I'm kind of in a trance state when I'm watching these kind of comic videos. It's my go-to each time. The way you might go for food, you know, when you're hungry, this is what I do with my positive affirmations, and this is what I do. I ingest in myself every day a little bit of humour. If I'm not the instigator of it all, I'm around somebody else that is. Usually in the evenings is when I'll put it on. They're all pre-recorded, or you can get them on the players, basically. If you've got Netflix, there's tons and tons of what they call comedy specials on there. Then 5-10 minutes of your favourite part of a joke just gets you laughing. And it is contagious, because sometimes I'm watching something and I'll get asked, what are you laughing at? Because my little daughter, I'm watching it on the phone, my little daughter will come over and say, what are you laughing at, Daddy? Because she's too young to understand the jokes. But I say, oh yeah, it's just funny man over here, funny man. So yeah, it is, you know, so laughter relaxes the whole body. A good hearty laugh, yeah, relieves physical tension and stress. Leaves your muscles relaxed for up to 45 minutes after a good hearty laugh, which makes it even more, in my opinion, important to find those people that make you laugh. I don't know if people are doing Zoom things as stand-ups. I know there's quizzes and various different things like that. But like I've just spoken about, you know, it could be a family. I've known people, family members, who are funny without them being funny, if that makes sense. They're not purposely trying to be funny. They're just natural people where if you sit and talk with them for a while, you end up having a laugh. Laughter triggers the release of endorphins, the happy mood chemicals, the body's natural feel-good chemicals. Endorphins promote an overall sense of well-being. So just having a laugh, when people say, he's just having a laugh, I think it's, at this moment in time especially, is a huge, huge bonus for us in terms of keeping ourselves grounded and keeping ourselves moving forward. One of the things I used to have a problem with in the past, I used to get stuck on one thing, one incident. I used to dwell on, say, the past, or I used to dwell on a particular situation for too long in my younger years. And it was just inertia. It would drain me. It would drain me mentally, it would drain me physically. So over the years, what I've been able to do is learn the lesson from what's just happened, always have a plan B, and move on. Because, you know, you've heard that phrase, don't cry over spilt milk. There's certain things that are within our control, especially, you know, if we're talking about current circumstances, we've got to realise that certain things are in our control, certain things, unfortunately, are not. So the ones that are not, what can we be doing for our businesses moving forward? And the ones that, in terms of lessons, it's a kind of self-expression of how you are as a person going forward. So we talked a lot about you as a person, your mindset, your moods, different ways of being more optimum for you and the business. But in terms of learning a lesson, what 2-3 things could you change going forward in terms of looking at a situation and thinking, right, I think, well, sometimes for me, I was really stubborn, very stubborn, and I used to get angry. So that just used to cloud everything. I couldn't see the lesson. If, as Baldrick used to say, you know, Blackadder said, you wouldn't see the lesson if it jumped out of the dustbin and smacked you over the head or something. I was too wrapped up into it over, you know, many, many years ago. So sometimes if you have the benefit of having good people around you, you can say, you know, this has happened. I can't really see anything. I can't see the positives. I can't see a lesson. Can you see anything? And if a good person, they'll tell you from their perspective. And it's then, are you going to allow yourself to obviously look at that, assess it yourself, and do something about it in terms of a positive change? Because this is the time. This is the time. You know, we haven't got that racing up and down the motorway, lots and lots of phones ringing, you know, huge amount of emails to backlog and do these sort of things. So yeah, why not use this time to improve yourself and your business? We learn something from everyone who passes through our lives. Some lessons are painful, some are painless, but they're all priceless. Now, some of my biggest lessons have come from people that probably caused me the biggest pain. But I don't know what it is. It's maybe the way the universe works. But for me, my biggest learnings have always come from those situations where previously I used to think I was unlucky or something. But actually now reframing it and re-looking at it, I'm probably one of the luckiest guys going. Because everything is probably not packaged up in a nice presented box. You know, it's probably got thorns with it and spikes with it. But in terms of the learning, it's something you're never going to learn. You know, people say university of life, but I've learned a huge amount. And a friend of mine called Jeff Thompson, who's a BAFTA award-winning writer, but also martial artist, done huge things over the years. But you know, his kind of journey was working in a factory, and the whole family saying you should be lucky working in the factory because you know that's what you do until you retire. And he wanted to be a writer, and everybody kept on pulling him down. Went on to write, like 27 books, creating feature films and award-winning films. He was with LL Cool J, Renee Zellweger, and all this sort of stuff. But one of the things he talked about is these people that sometimes, you know, if they cause you the sort of pain in your learning, he refers to them as teachers. That's a great teacher for you, that Latif. I had the benefit of being mentored by him. So he always used to say, you know, if that's happened and you think, you know, why me? Spin it around. And it was more, you know, why not me? And thanks very much. He said, if anything, people have probably caused you the greatest heartaches. It might be people that haven't paid you on time, people that are holding on to their invoices longer than they need to, maybe getting you to do lots and lots of tenders and things like that. And you know, you've done as much as you can. And it wasn't really going to go anywhere. You know, it could be other things. It could be certain staff. Whatever your challenges are, some of the hardest lessons I would get you to think about are probably the best lessons. It might not always work for everyone, but it has for me in terms of. So there's always a lesson we can learn if we're willing to be able to look and be big enough to kind of step back a bit. And they say that in the middle of difficulty, there's always opportunity. In the middle of difficulty, there's always opportunity. You know, these sorts of times will give us opportunities to learn, opportunities to develop, and opportunities to grow. So if you did a kind of little exercise, if you just wrote it down and you can follow it up in your own time, is that during the past few weeks, what have you learned? What have you learned about yourself? But what have you learned about your business? So for example, I've been coaching quite a few independent financial advisors, wealth managers, people that go and do a lot of visits at different times of the day and put a lot of mileage in. One of the things they've learned is they don't always need to be in front of people now because they've been successfully advising people through Zoom and still looking after investments. Yeah, sales, business development managers where they were starting off at, say, one side of the country and ending up at the other side of the country by nightfall and not going on for 2 to 3 days. They're still operating. They've not been furloughed. And they're still just as effective, if not more effective, because some of them aren't waking up at 4 or 5 in the morning to travel to a location. They're having extra sleep. They're following some of the things we've talked about in here. And their first meeting could be 8 in the morning, but they're doing it from the home. There's no school run and there's no additional things. So they're a lot more focused around that meeting. And because it's everywhere, everybody accepts it. So what will be interesting if you're an employer is to see if you're going to make any changes to the way you work as a company, especially your staff. And do some of your staff, are you going to give them the flexibility to be working from home based on the performance over, if they have been working and not been furloughed over the last few weeks? Because if you look at corporate social responsibility, CSR, as a company, these people that probably aren't commuting to your place of work, spending less fuel, there's less emissions, they'll probably feel a lot better. Because even there's one of my clients that does we used to do a 20 to 30 minute commute, but it's just in traffic from one side of Manchester to the other side of Manchester. And the way they used to say in terms of the back was a little bit stiff, the shoulders a bit stiff. It used to take them a little while to unwind when they're at the workstation. One of the things they're going to be looking to do, if they've not discussed it in the team meeting already, is them and the rest of the team members will be looking to work more flexibly, working from home, because they work with businesses. This particular person, they work with businesses, so it's all B2B work. So that's something to think about. What have you learned as a person? Are you more resilient? Are you more assertive? Have you found an inner strength that you didn't really know you had? And on the flip side to that, if you've had a little cry, if you've kind of thought, oh, I can't go on, but you've found your way back again within a few days or even a week and got used to it, like I said, we're very resilient and we're very good at adapting to change. That isn't a bad thing. That's just emotion. We've all had different things like that. But what have you done as a result of that? It's only when you find yourself stuck and you feel that's it, there's just nowhere to go. And then Michaela's saying, well, actually, there is. Do you fancy trying it? No, I don't want to try that. Latif's is saying, do you not fancy having a word with Helen? Helen Kimber, she might be able to lighten things, show you a new way. No, not interested in it. When you've got a closed mind like that, it's very, very difficult. But in terms of sometimes our own vulnerability, as it's exposed, is to celebrate that. Because we're all human, and I think spend a lot of time trying to put this online persona and sometimes a physical persona of who I am or who somebody else is, and we've all suffered sometimes from insecurities, uncertainties, and we can all be vulnerable. And it's celebrating those times of being vulnerable, understanding that as the layers get pulled through, yeah, we are going to be a bit wobbly sometimes, and sometimes we might have a little bit of a wobble, but it's perfectly normal because that's what life's about. There are ups and downs. If we're always on a high every time, God, what would happen if you went flat down? You'd never recover. And sometimes knowing those challenging times and how we've risen from those challenging times make the great ones even more sweeter. There's a quote which is roughly to the thing, it's not in getting knocked down, it's in rising up that matters. So these things I'm sharing with you now, if you think, well, to be honest with you, I've got this covered, it might be a source of help for you to share with either people at home, but mostly your staff, your team, your suppliers, people that you may know at the moment. They're on lockdown, you're on lockdown, so to speak, so there's no business being passed, but it's still okay to contact them, arrange a phone call, make somebody's day, even if it's 10, 15 minutes, arrange a Zoom call, be there for them now, because people have long memories. What was Latif doing when I didn't hear from him? Oh, well, I was his client and I felt neglected or whatever. Same with business to business relationships. Yeah, Joe Blog was okay when we were outsourcing our work to them, but when this happened, the first thing they did was they want to collect all the money and then we'd hear from them. So, these all relate back to one's ethics and values. And it might be that you can't do anything for that particular business in this, but you can give them a little bit of time. You can share things you might have read, heard, seen, things that have inspired you, and you can share that with these people and say, look, if it helps. And sometimes just knowing somebody's there means a lot. It means a hell of a lot. That reassurance to say, listen, anytime you want to speak, message me and we'll get something. It doesn't even need to be something specific. That's that little comfort business blanket, you could say, we've all got, or we should have around us to know. They say you are the product of the 5 or 7 people around you. It's good to know that people have got your back within that network, a little bit further, where you can go for inspiration, somebody else to go for that heart-to-heart. Believe it or not, even Jeff Thompson, the martial artist, with he met Chuck Norris and all sorts of things in America. Even he had a person, a trusted friend for many, many years that he used to put out on the social media and say, when Jeff needs somebody to have a heart with, he contacts Tony. So some of the biggest leaders, some of the biggest inspirers, movers, shakers, disruptors, they've always got somebody. So, create that network, reignite it if it's gone a little bit quiet, and boost it in itself. Huge opportunities for you to network with all the different people you may have been on a workshop with previously, and today, and going forward from today, all the Zoom webinars. And reach out to your own business advisor as well. That's what it's all about. We're all in, we get hearing, we're all in this together, we're all in this together. And sometimes it's about saying it and then trying our best, within the time that you have. Focus on the present. So we did a little bit of an exercise. You can have a little go at doing that now if you like. So if you just sit up in your chair, nice and straight, feet on the floor. Just let your hands come to a rest, nice straight back. And if we start with that breathing again, in through your nose, hold, out for 6. And make sure you squeeze all that air out till your stomach muscles tighten, where 6-pack's tucked away somewhere, but get it all out. In, hold, and out. Do that a few more times. Through your nose, nice fresh breath. Hold, out through your mouth. And although this particular one I'm doing now is a shorter version of a longer exercise, I just want you to be aware, first of all, come aware of your feet. Just place your attention. You can either leave your eyes open or close your eyes, but just bring your attention to your feet. Just notice that sensation of your feet on the floor. If you've got footwear on, what does that feel like? Can you feel your feet inside your shoes? If you haven't got any shoes, your slippers, your socks. If you're barefoot, what's the sensation of the air around? Is it cool? Is it warm? And then slowly move up your shins, your calf muscles. And while we're doing this, just keep your breath just normal. You don't need to hold it in anymore, just a bit like a cycle, like the waves coming in and out. And then your knees, backs of your knees, tops of your thighs, back of your thighs, and whether you've got shorts on, whether you've got trousers on, whatever you're wearing, what's the sensation of what you're wearing on your legs, and then your bottom, abdomen, lower back, tips of your fingers, if they're resting on your thighs or on your desk, what does that sensation feel like? Backs of your hands, the palms, the wrists, forearms, elbows. Just bring your attention as you move up and sort of scan through your body. Biceps, triceps, to the shoulder, up to the neck, your back, your stomach area, your chest, shoulder blades, right the way up to the neck, the back of the head, ears, your face, your nose, your mouth, forehead, right to the top of your head. Just notice those sensations. And while you're there, just simply try and focus on the breath. And just see what comes to mind as you observe yourself, without any comment, any judgment. Nobody needs anything. There's nothing to do. And the first thing I'd like you to do is look at one thing, if you've got your eyes open, that you can see. One thing that you can see. One thing that you can hear. And then one thing you can feel. Just keep that breathing going. Now, a second thing that you can see, different than the first one. Second thing you can hear. The second thing you can feel, different than the first. And then a third thing that you can see. If your eyes are closed, even if it's in your mind's eye. A third thing that you can hear. A third thing you can feel. And just be aware of this moment, this present moment where we've had an opportunity to spend. And just be fully mindful of the breath. And just know that when you need to break states, when you need a little time out, it literally is minutes for you to be able to take this time out. Based on everything we've covered so far. And focusing on the present, focusing on your breath, focusing on things that you can see, feel, and hear. So what I'd like you to do now is slowly bring your attention back to my voice. Look at your screen, have a little stretch if you like, have a sip of water. And maybe just jot down how that was for you. How was that for you? How did it help you? How and when will you use it again? The reason I've got these images up here is there is an app. You can do a mindfulness app. It's free to download. I think there's some paid versions as well, but on the left-hand side, you've got a mindfulness bell where on the app, if you tap it, it's like somebody taps that bell and you can hear this vibration sound. And one of the things you can do with that is try and listen out to how long you can continue hearing that sound. So it fully gets your attention just on the sound, but through the app, there's various different ways to set reminders, there's little tasks. So if you typed in mindfulness app, or in this case, it's a mindfulness bell, but there's one that has more features. So in that case, you can actually make little notes. You can set reminders for the bell to go off every half an hour, to break that state, get you changed, get you back to here and now. And when I used to do a lot of yoga in person, we used to have our instructor used to put a candle in the room. I'm sure she got it health and safety and risk assessed, but it was all about us focusing on that flame, So if it's safe to do so, you could try something like that. If not, you may focus on something else. There may be other apps that you can find yourself which will help you focus on something that takes away unwanted thoughts, but puts you in the here and now, puts you in the present, and it allows you to focus in a positive light. And the more you practice, the easier it gets. You can Google, say, mindfulness. There's lots of videos on YouTube. And there'll be ones where it'll just give you an introduction. There'll be ones where you can do it with them. Some 5-10 minutes, some a bit longer. But the whole aim of it is to get you kind of centered, get you into a state of just being. It's not woo-woo stuff. Mindfulness has helped through research for people with chronic disease to manage the pain, also depression, mental illness. They've actually taken MRI scans of using people using mindfulness just as a relaxation thing, and it's actually changed the scope of the brain using MRI scans. All the research is on the internet. You can type in mindfulness scientific research results and there'll be tons of stuff coming up. But the guy who brought it to the fore is a guy called John Kabat-Zinn. You can look at his videos. He trialed it out. He's a doctor. Trialed it out in America, where he had test subjects he was working with that basically the tablets weren't really working for him, or they were going to be hooked on tablets for a long, long time. So he had all different sorts of people, and he started using, as he says, Buddhist techniques and relaxation and mindfulness with this group. And then he brought it out into the fore to make it more mainstream, and used it within the, well, not in the NHS, but within the health sector over there in the States. But NHS UK, as far as I understand, have been offering their patients through the GPs and all those sorts of things, mindfulness courses besides CBT and those sorts of things. So, see, mindfulness is really, really good. You don't need to suffer from depression to do it. It's very good too. You know, if you've got a car, at the moment we're not driving it that much, but you'd have an MOT and then you'll have a service. And for a lot of the newer ones, or the ones that are a little bit more high performance, we'll do other things. We'll make sure we'll put in a higher grade lubricant. We'll put in different things to make sure you get optimum results from that, for the engine. You know, even these new cars are start and stop technology. So we need to be thinking the same lines of, when are we starting the work for the day or for the afternoon? And when are we stopping? When are we consuming our energy? Because, you know, like the mobile phones and all those sorts of things, battery starts running out, you've got the screen usage time. We need to have something like that for ourselves, of how much we've been hammering ourselves, mentally, physically. When do we get a chance to recharge the batteries? When do you have what they call me time? And this could be one of the things, could be the me time, where it's just you. You can still do things with your family, but this could be just you. Proper me time. But there's all sorts of other things you can do just for me time. You know, you've got exercises like Pilates, yoga, where you might do it collectively. You could have one of them aromatic baths or whatever. But in terms of this, works really, really well, especially if you go through the app, because you don't really need much setting up then. So yeah, focus on the present as much as you can. Like anything, the more you do it, it gets easier, and it's your attitude to it all. I mean, most of the stuff like this, I don't really share it. I don't share it with you. But the reason I'm sharing it with you, because of the nature of the title of this talk, you won't come on. So other people, I don't get into much detail with it, because I don't think they appreciate the benefits. I don't think they fully understand, even though they might appreciate health and well-being. If I said, well, download this app, I don't think they'll ever download it. And they're the ones sometimes, unfortunately, that suffer from high levels of stress. But yeah, you know, they keep themselves occupied in other forms of exercises and things like that. What I'm trying to offer you here is, a better phrase, a holistic approach. You can still do your exercise, you can still eat well, you can still hydrate yourself, you can still use affirmations, you can still use things like this. It's a combined approach, you see. It's like looking after your machine in several different ways, rather than just relying on one or two. Because if you just go out walking, if you just go out jogging and you pull a hamstring or whatever, what do you do then? So you've got a few things that help you recharge yourself in that way, because as you're recharging, it'll inspire to help others. You'll have better relationships at home, you'll have better business relationships. I can't underestimate how powerful, or understand how much this is in my life, but all the other people I've worked with, privately, some pro bono, whatever, I've suggested different elements of what I've just gone through with you, and they've all given me really, really good feedback, positive feedback. I'm talking about CEOs as well, MDs. You know, they probably don't broadcast it, but when they've spoken to me on a one-to-one, they said, "Oh, I tried that. Really good, it's really good. Helped clear my mind. I'm a lot more focused. Decision making is more effective just by doing this sort of stuff." Let's move on to the next one, structure. So the timekeeping workshop that'll be coming up, that's going to give you lots of different ways to help you with that, but structure is key. If you've got children, especially, whether they're on holiday at the moment or whether they're returning school in a week or two, they thrive on routine and structure. And so I've heard loads of statements at the moment. I've been caught out the odd few times myself where it feels like every day is rolling into one. I've tried to make sure that my diary is planned in a certain way to ensure there's not just opportunities for work, but it's like the old Mars adverts. I don't work for Mars, but work, rest, and play, and laugh a lot. Laugh a lot. But yeah, if you're working from home, and same with, so I've got 3 kids, and at the moment they've finished, well, today's their last day from the second week of half term. So next week, Monday, they're technically back at school, but from home. So we have them up at the same time as we'd normally have them up. And then they're sat at the kind of desks that they do the work from, bang on, like 8:55, they're on there, and they know exactly what they're going to be doing because the teachers dojoed them, if you know what a dojo is. It's a kind of little app that they communicate. So yeah, they've all got this stuff. They know exactly what they're going to be doing, and all the books and everything that they have, textbooks, everything is all ready to go. It's none of this, oh, I can't find this and I can't find. So an hour goes by before they actually sit down, and then break time is whatever time they have the break, mid-morning break. Lunchtime is great now because I structure my lunch because I'm working from home with the rest of the family, which just wouldn't happen. Kids would be eating at school. Wife would be at home or out and about with her friend, and I would be at work or somewhere up the M6 or M65. Very rare will I have lunch at home, where at the moment it's every day, and then you've got late afternoon breaks. So huge benefits just with a little planning and structure. So I'm a bit kind of ruthless when it comes to family, so I actually do it the other way around. I will slot in business meetings, online networking, client meetings. I will slot them in and around what I'm going to do, as in when we're going to have a lunch as a family, when when the kids are going to be on breaks. I get them in, and everything else flows around that. You don't have to do it that way, but it's because sooner or later, whether we work from home, we might not be working from home as much as we do now. And I'm trying to squeeze in every last bit of pleasure of seeing the kids, spending time with them. Because if you looked at our lives 3-4 months, well, even a month ago, I don't know how many times we were at home with the kids, unless it's half term or something. So yeah, normal circumstances, there's a lot of transferable skills. If you take what you have in terms of being productive, hoping you're productive before you got hit with COVID-19, but all them transferable skills, including any online apps that you use, whether you use Trello, whether you use anything else, project management software, those sorts of things, you can implement those into your daily routine, like I touched on before, to help you with structure, to help you with routine. Now at work or in the office, you might have a wall planner. You might not have all the luxuries at home like that, but you might have a little bit of space to put a little post-it note. And one of the things I've mentioned to people is having that. What's the best way to phrase it? It's having a healthy conversation at home. That when you're working. So in the first 24 hours of working from home, I didn't have that conversation straight away because I thought my wife would automatically get working from home and the kids. So I think because I was there, my wife was lining up jobs. Oh, when you got a minute, can you just do this? When you got a minute, can you do this? So I need to change that mindset. So now in the house, it's like daddy's going back to work, especially for the children. But which basically means me going upstairs and being in this cold room, hence the fleece. But when I say I'm going to work, I don't say I'm going upstairs. Daddy's going to go back to work. We can do that later. Because break time. My youngest is 4, so she'll want to do something like with jigsaws and drawing and colouring. She goes, "Oh, Daddy, can we do this? Can we do that?" And the heartstrings are playing, and she's Daddy's little girl, and I go, "Yeah, we can, but wait till Daddy finishes work today." So it's as though I'm actually out and about working out. But it's I've made whether you've got the luxury of a home office or not. It is about using that language in that way and having those conversations. Because there's been a few times where, again, stocks were running low. My wife said, "You can nip out. We desperately need this. We desperately need that." And I was like, "Let's look at that and manage it in a way where I'm just not running out, and then I've got clients on and all those sorts of things." But that was only in the first 24 hours generally. After that, I think what's happened is there's been a routine and a respect for that routine on both sides. But yeah, planning with this, with the structure, is time for exercise, whether you do it outside, indoors. Although it might be good on certain times when it says it's been a great time to do jobs I've not had a chance to do. If you're looking at growing your business, if you're looking at future planning, because we will get back on board again, for that thing is, yeah, do your DIY jobs, great, but try not to do them in your kind of business time, business hours, if you can help it. If you're bored, you need to look at why you're bored. So you might say, well, there's no work, Latif, that's why I'm bored. Well, is there a chance during that time when you're feeling bored to upskill yourself? There's lots of free online courses you can use. There'll be boost courses. But in terms of, like, even if you did a plan, then you might go, what's the point planning? Everything's going to change. But you've still got to have some sort of structure in terms of saying, well, what will my business look like? So when we see that guy who's very animated, I love him. He does the news. So, sorry, he does the news. He does the weather. He's a Welsh name. But that weather is a forecast. And we hear about cash flow forecasting. So nobody's telling you to write it in stone. What we're saying is that in terms of future planning, you can do certain scenarios. Just like the government are probably doing scenarios about, what happens if this happens, and then we'll tell everybody this. So with your business, you might reach a point where you feel there's not a lot to do, but if you actually look at it, there's a few scenarios you can run past without putting a huge amount of work in, which is all going to go, well, that's all redundant now. I'm not asking you to do that. Okay. The other thing is, even for your exercise, and we've talked about the mindfulness stuff or taking a break, I'd put it in your diary, whether you use a paper diary like me, and I also use electronic, but my main go-to is my paper one, is I actually slot in there, whether it's the word lunch, whether it's the word working on the business, look at this or look at that. It's given a name, a specific name, for example, lead, stroke, LinkedIn. And I've got the names of the people who contacted me on LinkedIn for my own business. If it's for the work I do with Shout, similar, but it gets put in as an entry. But in terms of me going out with the kids and the family, doing some walking, doing some running, doing some exercise, that goes in the diary. So nothing's left to chance, especially during this time. Because, before this, you'd hear people say, well, I've got a membership at here, there. I've not been. But if you ask them about, well, have you fulfilled all your meetings today? Have you been out to see all your clients? Well, I've done all them. So either there's a priority issue or it's just simply not been scheduled in. And if it's scheduled in, you're far more likely to then give it a value, especially this time. So your time outs, your exercise, your chill out time, your me time, all of that needs to have for you, based on your value system, equal importance as you would be contacting me as a potential client to go, well, Latif's going to buy my computer supplies or whatever it might be. It needs to be ranked that high up based on all the things we've talked about so far, or I've talked about so far. You'll feel organized. It'll provide you an excellent structure, and it'll also give you that feel-good factor knowing what you've got on for tomorrow and the rest of the week, next week. You can move it around based on what happens, what comes through inquiry-wise, and that also would reflect what you put out on social media as well. So a few people got undone. Michaela mentioned this in her Instagram webinar, one of the first. Well, it was the first one. But people had loads and loads of content scheduled, and when the whole lockdown started, they forgot to go back in and change it and delete it or amend it or all this sorts of things. Were still going out as though we're operating as normal. But there's two ways. One is about maybe looking at what activity you want to plan. Say if today was Monday, you could sit down yourself, a few team members, if you're just on your own. But you could still ask other business owners to help you. But what kind of content do you want going out for next week? Next Monday morning, afternoon, Tuesday, all the rest of it. And you can start planning that the week ahead. Because then you'll be covered in terms of your brand. I'm sure Michaela will be in another workshops very soon in terms of going into this a lot more detail. So very simply, it's about you still having a brand presence online. You know, you might not be able to say we've just secured this deal and that deal, but it's very much about talking about your subject of expertise. No point you regurgitating what the legal professionals are talking about. All the accountants will be talking about tax, rate relief, grants. You know, let them talk about what their expertise is. If your expertise is IT, if your expertise is health and well-being, if your expertise is in finance, talk about those areas where we can learn something. Things that could help us sort of in our daily work or in our daily planning. You can schedule time. You know, you might then go on and do your own little webinars, or you could create your own content in terms of putting out social media and all the rest of it. But essentially, be your own expert, be your own brand and ambassador. If you've already outsourced work to people, then continue those relationships, maybe renegotiate what is the best content to put out. If you're an independent financial advisor, you know, what's the best content to put out if you're a fashion designer? Yeah.
One of the, just so I can clarify, we are looking at putting the next set of sessions out, and it would be interesting to know if that would be helpful to people, because the whole way people search has changed. The Google searches are showing completely different searches. So as marketeers, everything we know has been sort of wrapped around, and we have to learn new ways of doing marketing. So that what you're saying is really interesting, and it would be really helpful if people could let us know what they specifically need help with in terms of becoming their own expert. Do they need help with creating webinars? Do they need help with working on their websites, changing the way that they're speaking even? Because kindness is the new selling. Caring is the new selling, not selling. So just wanted to put that in case you...
No, absolutely, Michaela, definitely. So make sure you contact Michaela and the team at Boost and give your feedback, because the way the programs are structured, we try not to be prescriptive. So feedback would help a lot in terms of the future planning of what is important to you guys at the moment. And then, you know, Michaela and, in this case, Enterprise for All and Boost, will be able to make those happen and appoint the appropriate people to run those webinars. So, yeah, definitely worth getting involved in those. So just finishing off on the structure, make you feel organised, provide you with that feel-good factor, and it'll also help you with your tasks. So if you've got an overall goal for the week, break it down into little chunks, break it down into little tasks. I sometimes do like something where I reward myself and go, right, if I get this done, I'll aim to get it done for like 10 in the morning, and that's when I'll have a break. You know, that's when I go downstairs, start making a brew, knowing the kids are going to have a break about 10, 15 minutes later on. So I have my little treats, which were, because not sugar, not chocolate, but my little treats, even if it is, I'm going to stand up, I'm going to go for a walk, and then because it's been so sunny, I'll just stand outside. So obviously the fleece will have gone, my shorts are on, the flip-flops are on, and it's just 5-10 minutes, no more. You know, if you need to set your alarm for that, then set it, it's fine. I just put my phone on one side, and I can just see, you know, like 8 minutes, 9 minutes, and that's it, bang, straight upstairs, get changed again, and I'm back onto what I was doing next. So I've had my vitamin D. It's been great looking at the sunshine. It's been very, very quiet. And sometimes, obviously, when the kids have been off on holiday, they come out and sit with me. So yeah, look at those opportunities to be able to do that. I'd be really, really interested to hear from you. In terms of some feedback. I have asked you to connect with me on social media, because this is an ongoing process, and it's really nice to hear good stories, so you can obviously continue using that hashtag Ask for Help, tagging people like Boost, at Boost Info, at Enterprise for All, and all, you know, all those, because we want to be able to hear the stories, because by you putting them up there, it will help inspire other people as well. People that maybe not either joined Boost yet, or if they've joined, they've not been able to make it today. But if you think about it being online, the global village, as it were, then who knows? Loads of people could see it. So yeah, the selling, you know, being kind is a massive thing for me. You know, what goes around comes around. So keep connected. I've touched on most of this, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But in terms of your own structure for business, in terms of you maintaining your mojo, motivation, keeping contact with your own customers, excellent for customer care. We've covered that. Be active online. I've covered that as well. So that will be posts, reminders, where sometimes Facebook gives you that. It's like a history thing where this was you 3 years ago, share your memory. You could dig out old things, old contracts that you've won, old posts that you've seen and go, this was us 12 months ago when we just moved into our new offices. But again, talk about what that meant. So it could mean the growth of the business. It could mean how you were able to move from one level in terms of the delivery to another whole new level, which allowed you to get larger contracts to move into new offices. It's all relative. It's all relative. So if you're just working from a shared office, a business centre, then equally, what has that meant? So it might mean the transition from working from home to a business centre or a co-working space. Or if you're still at home, there may be other things you can share. When did you go self-employed? When did you form a limited company? Anything that's going to be of interest to other people. Learn from other people. I've talked about that, but again, specifically, if there's Facebook groups for business, there's LinkedIn groups. Michaela's talked about Enterprise for All, what they have. Boost have a massive following on social media, especially under this Ask for Help. So there's a lot there to be connected with them online. Provide opportunities for people. And like I said before, it's not always about giving everything for free. Certain things in certain businesses you might do on goodwill, under the proviso it's going to lead to some work, and that's how you then negotiate, how you have a clear conversation and all the rest of it. So if I went to Michaela and I said, under your Guardian Angels marketing company, I need some help producing some videos. So as a coach, I do a lot of static work in terms of images and can you do me some videos? And I might say, what's the investment? She tells me, and I say, well, okay, can we do this sort of arrangement for now? And then what we'll do is, if you want me to commit to this is all made up, by the way, but if you want me to commit to a contract that you would usually do for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, or 9 months, 12 months, because you have a better relationship, you're able to track that, people managing your social media can track everything. So what we'll do is, if you can do me 3 months now as a contract, rather than say you're tied in for 12 months, and then what we'll do on the proviso, as things move ahead, I'll sign up for your 12-month program or whatever it might be. So there's many different ways that you can make the suggestions, or the business owner can make the suggestions to get a little bit of work in. Sometimes people are waiving or deferring upfront signing on fees. Some people are spreading the terms of flexible payment just to get you on as a client initially, which is then meant change in terms of terms and conditions and contracts. So there's a lot there to think about in terms of how you can still try and keep things going. Just because we're in this pandemic doesn't mean people can go, well, you do websites, don't you? Well, I need a free website. It just can't work like that. What you might be able to do is organise something where they can help them have a website that you might work out the payment terms slightly differently, or there might be something which is an all sing and dancing website now, but the contract says you do some work at the moment with a view to upgrading it, I don't know, later on. So yeah, be flexible, be different. The more flexible you are, the easier it's going to be for you to have those conversations and continue those conversations. Always be on the lookout when you are connecting with your customers or reconnecting with your customers. Listen out for things that they'll be saying to you, because you could spot an opportunity by body language. If you're doing Zoom or telephone, listen out for certain things, and you could all be probing little things. And if you know categorically that there's just no movement based on what they've said, you've not even needed to pitch anything, it's just where they are, go into the mode of being the helper, as like the business helper. Well, maybe you try this. Do you want me to put you in contact with this person, that person? They'll always remember that, because they'll come back to you because you'll build the trust later on. It might be that you're the one that's helped them come out of a bit of a rut, a bit of a block, So yeah, look at those. In terms of this section here, I've touched upon it before. I wasn't trying to get people down when I said that. It's just fortunate and happy to be alive. Everything, waking up in the morning for me, just getting up is the huge thing. Everything after that is a bonus for me. It's just one more day for me to be awesome. One more day for me to spend with the wife and kids and do what I do, you know, be passionate about those people I work with, help with, even this morning. Because that is infectious. When you get to that, and that is your, as in business terms, they say, what is your big why? What is your big why? And if you've nailed that, you'll have had quite a few opportunities already to look at that, because you'll be able to put a lot of this. But this section here is more about looking at smaller things that might be missed, but keep a gratitude journal. So we've touched upon it before, 20 things that you're grateful for. You can continue writing things, writing statements, writing things that happen during the day, things that people have said that love you, things in business that people have said when you've rung them, or vice versa, people have rung you. You can jot it down, you can make it creative as possible. You can colour it, you can add all sorts of things. You don't need to go out and spend loads of money buying a journal, you just do it on pieces of paper. Maybe put a few around your office or somewhere on your fridge. You can do like a collage, you can get the family involved, but essentially that is, in my belief, that is your hub, that is your base for everything else that feeds off. Because you know, when you've had a long day in the office, when you've had a long day at work, where do you go? You always go home. Home's that sanctuary. Obviously we're at home all the time now, but isn't it about us recollecting all those beautiful things that are around us, our health, our ability to be creative at times, our ability to be flexible, our ability to still be in business, even though it might be challenging. So the kind of questions I'll ask you about this section, besides asking you to think about doing a journal, a gratitude journal, is what keeps you motivated? What keeps you motivated? Who and what are you grateful for right now? So you can start with yourself, then you can move it into your business side of things. And remember, a small win is still a win. You know, my business is really small, but I have huge wins because it's on a relative basis, and it's all about what you class as being successful. Experiences, right? So focus on experiences that you've had, that have happened, what you're going to create. Like tomorrow, even if it's just like tomorrow, we're going to go for a walk. We're on the walk, we're going to make it interesting. It's going to be an adventure. Be creative. Bring back happy memories, bring back happy moments. Recreate those in that journal. I mean, if you wanted to, you can go one step further and do a slideshow if it's more family related. But you could do something on LinkedIn or on your social media pages. Get a few images, get a few client testimonials and go, guys, we're still going, but here's a little video we produce just to say thank you to everyone. And that could be a mixture of, you know, images of you moving from one office to another, you're getting started off 5 years ago, 6 years ago. In between that, there may be other things about client testimonials. It could just be a thank you, you know, it could be sharing that bit of your success with the wider world. And achievements, you know, what do you feel proud of over the last few years? What are you grateful for right now? Experiences, and the final section on the gratitude is achievements. What do you feel proud of over the years, you know, particularly in your business as well? And make sure, when I keep saying it's relative, you've got to amplify just how great you are and what you did. If Michaela got 1,000 sales, great. If I got one sale, I'm going to take that one sale and shine it so high, because it's my one sale. We do different things, but it means a lot to me, that one sale, of the nature of being given the opportunity to work with somebody who's willing to invest in me and my business and my services, etc., and all the beautiful things I can do as a result. So it is relative. Never undersell yourself in terms of things you've achieved, and never put put the spotlight on your brilliance. You know, and like I said before, you can put up physical representations of this through photographs. It could be music. It could be all sorts of things. The reason why all this works, if you ever looked at any of Derren Brown, the illusionist, the psychologist, what do they call them? A mind psychologist. There's several shows where he's demonstrated the power of leaving things conveniently in places that have an effect on you, on the unconscious brain, in terms of influencing you. And this is the last section. Positive vibes. For me, I'll just run through mine, but I'm going to ask you to make a list of what are your positive vibes. So this is, if you can see the lady, it's actually a bloke disguise, but that's the League of Gentlemen, which is a dark comedy. And it's still available on iPlayer. I keep watching it. I probably know what's coming up in every single episode. But it's just, I find it absolutely hilarious. There's only 3 guys that are behind the whole thing, but they play different characters. And so, you know, again, what is your thing there? For me, family is a big part of it. Things they say and do, the experiences we've had and all the rest of it. Huge part. The cat with the glasses is actually related to music, and a certain type of music that just fills me with inspiration. It keeps me motivated. And friends. You know, I don't claim to have millions and millions of friends and be the most popular guy in the world, but the few people I have around me, they're trusted people, the people that I can contact and talk about different things, have a laugh with. You know, they get you, I get them. Sometimes we might not talk for 4 or 5 days. We just pick up where we left. And Picture of Columbo, the TV detective, it's something which I've always loved. I find him a very interesting character, because if you're into neuro-linguistic programming, using the brain, when I talked about state change and disrupting thoughts, he's a master of that. Obviously, it's all fictional in Columbo, but in terms of the techniques, there's a lot of parallels there. Plus, I love watching the old shows because they're quite old. Majority of them are quite old, in the 60s and 70s, early 80s. So the fashion wardrobes in those days, because I'm a child of the 70s, I go, oh yeah, I remember them. So yeah, and then the last one here is whether it's indoors or outdoors. For me, we go out walking near us. There's a huge river and there's lots of woodland. So it's just about getting lost in that. Very few people take the paths we take. So we don't really see anybody out and about because we don't get into the main parks. We just get into these little woodland areas. There's hardly anybody there. Might get the odd one or two. And I do what are called, you can do mindfulness eating, you can do mindfulness drinking. But when I'm walking on there, even though I'm holding my youngest daughter's hand, I'm feeling the texture of her hand with my hand and doing mindful walking. And what does it feel like to be walking on that path? What does it feel like in terms of the wind or the heat brushing against my cheeks and all the rest of it? The gentle hover of the branches. So I'm doing that while I'm walking. If we're out for like 20, 30 minutes and then a slow walk back home, I've done 20 minutes of A, being in nature, B, getting loads and loads of fresh air, and C, practicing mindfulness in a really, really good environment.